Hey everybody, it's your briefing attorney Jeremy Rosenthal here. Just wanted to share this video with you from last spring, an interview on WLW in Cincinnati with Ken Brew. We talk about Fani Willis and the issues surrounding her and the prosecution of Donald Trump and Donald Trump's attempts to exclude her. Stick around to the end and you'll see the update and how this all ended.
News Radio 700 WLW.
So the courtroom drama that has gripped a lot of people in the Georgia area came to a crescendo yesterday. Not necessarily the high note, certainly, in what is going on there and the racketeering charges against Donald Trump and about 19 of his co-defendants. But yesterday, the judge presiding over the case, who, by the way, is one of, if not the youngest, that sits on the Atlanta area bench, Judge Scott McAfee, seemed to separate the baby from the bathwater when he told Fani Willis that, look, either you go or your lover, Nathan Wade, go, but one of you two have to go. And then, like the good soldier, Nathan Wade resigned, and so Fani Willis can continue prosecuting this case against Donald Trump and his co-defendants. McAfee seemed like a level-headed guy. He would seem on the surface to be compromised in this case, because he once worked for Fani Willis before entering the realm of the judicial part of law. Went to the University of Georgia Law School. Everybody says that he's just an even-tempered guy. But, when he joined the prosecutor's office in Fulton County in 2015, I believe, Willis was his supervisor. He seemed to give her a lot of leeway in his court back in February, where she just took over the proceedings. So now he says she can stay on. He also is running for elected office very soon, as is she, and this case will proceed through it. On the surface, I'm sure that there's nothing nefarious going on here, but you have to wonder, with politics so much intertwined on this, how much has he been, I suppose, narrowed by that, and how much has Ms. Willis been narrowed by that, and did it play into the Trump team's hand, or is this just simply a bump in the road? Standing by is somebody who wins every time he goes into court, it would seem. He has over 200 cases where he has gotten not guilty verdicts. And my gosh, what defendant wouldn't want that? He is Jeremy Rosenthal. We've had Jeremy on the show before, and he's back again today. And Jeremy, how are you on this glorious Saturday?
I'm great. Sometimes I also have to count motions to continue when I get the weekend off, like this weekend. I have to count those as wins too. Those go on the website just the same.
But as you say, every time a lawyer gets paid, an angel gets his wings.
That's right.
I love
That's
that.
right. And it's true.
I use that a lot, by the way, since I talked to you last.
Well, very good. We need to get the message out there. The good word.
Look, I'm not getting into whether Trump is guilty, whether his co-defendants are guilty or not guilty. I'm not going to go into the whys and the wherefores of anything like that. But you have a judge that once was worked for Willis. Maybe that's inescapable in the realm of judgeship, that you've always worked for somebody, whether it's a defense counsel or a district attorney. But I'm just wondering on that level, was McAfee walking into kind of a minefield with this to begin with?
Nobody wants this case. I'll tell you that much. I'll bet you every judge in that courthouse, when they knew this case was getting filed, said they looked at it between their fingers and said, not me, not me, not me. And then they all did a sigh of relief unless you're this one. That's how these go. The criminal world, the criminal justice world, I mean, it's a locker room. It's a small, it's just a small universe of people that, like you said, I mean, you're going to work for somebody. And a lot of times you're going to be a former prosecutor when you take the bench. So that's just kind of how it goes. So it just sort of comes with the territory, and you do kind of look, folks come into my office and that's questions we get asked. What's this judge's background? Has this prosecutor ever defended people? And a lot of times, I mean, we're kind of like, the roadrunner and the coyote, you know, we chase each other all day and then we punch out. So that's how these go a lot of the time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm reading an article that was written by the BBC. I guess it was yesterday after this, and that Willis told the Washington Post last year that the judge was one of her quote-unquote baby attorneys and praised him as immensely talented, and he may very well be immensely talented. It just seems to me, and as you well just stated there, a case that nobody else seemed to have wanted for a number of different reasons. But I look at what his decision was yesterday. I'm not sure what the win is here, because if you're Willis, your reputation has been damaged. She put on a you-know-what kind of show in February when she stormed into that courtroom. I don't know how that can be exploited by the various defense attorneys here. Meanwhile, the case didn't go away. It wasn't taken out of her office. She wasn't extricated from it. The minute the judge gave her a choice, you or your boyfriend, we all knew what the choice was going to be from her. So I'm not sure the decision yesterday benefited either side. And if that's the case, it was probably a very fair decision.
If I'm Donald Trump's team in this instance, I don't think I expected to win this one. I really don't. But what we do on the defense side is we drive as many wedges as we can. A joke that I tell folks is that, look, we are getting chased by the monster in the movie, right? And we're going to knock over every apple cart, and we're going to throw every shopping cart and knock over every fruit stand that we can. But and we're going to try to hope that shakes the monster. But in a lot of these cases, we get eaten at the end of a back alley, right?
Yeah.
So this is a situation where you are really attempting to delay, and you're hoping for something good to happen. You're hoping that maybe she gets excluded, because you never know. Right. Maybe she gets excluded. Maybe there's a different prosecutor's office who gets on the case. But I tell you this much, Ken, I think that probably part of the conversation that went on within Trump's team was, we better be careful because we might win this thing. And if we do, we could get somebody who might be pretty good in the courtroom. Mm-hmm. And as we can see, that might not be Miss Willis. Yeah. So part of it is you're kind of crossing your fingers that, okay, well, we may be careful here. We might not want what we're asking for. Yeah. But again, you're delaying. You have clearly damaged this person's reputation. You may have even cost her a reelection for all we know. Will it ultimately help his case? Again, I think they've gotten all the leverage they can out of it. If there's a chance it can acquit your person and you have the resources and the funds to be able to push that debate, you push it. Yeah. That's what they did, and they made the most out of it they could. Yeah. But didn't get them exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, man, I watched that whole thing play out back in February, and look, there was misleading information at the very least, misleading information from Willis and from Wade about when their relationship started, how it developed, and this and that. And again, the thing I was having trouble with was, okay, how does that directly tie, or her sexual proclivities, his sexual proclivities to the side? How does that draw a line to how they're going to prosecute this case on the evidence? And I think that's what the judge came to. It just seemed like it was more salacious than anything. Was she unlikable? Yes, very much so. But
yeah, so exactly, and it comes down to exactly what you said. It's a harm analysis. So we've got hanky-panky, we've got some problems here, but how does this affect your ability, your constitutional rights to defend yourself? How does it affect that? And how does it affect these charges? So that's ultimately why I think that this case died. And I think the judge was also looking for a more definitive money trail. I mean, look, Judge tongue-lashed these folks pretty badly. This was not a good day in court for Miss Willis. Right. Ultimately, everybody lost, right? Because Mr. Trump didn't get what he wanted. And Miss Willis would probably rather not get called those things by a judge who, I mean, if he's going to say those things and verbalize them, and he didn't have to do any of that. He could have just said, okay, your motion's overruled. Now what do we do?
Yeah.
Let's get a trial date. That's what some judges would have done or could have done here. So from that standpoint, he showed a little bit of spine, I would say, to his former boss.
You know, I've this is really one of those age-old questions that I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, because there's jeopardy with both. But should judges be elected officials at the whim of the electorate? And invariably, human element enters into, I would think, campaigning and how is this going to affect my campaign? Or should they be appointed? I mean, in a perfect world, at that level, not necessarily, we know how it works above that level, but at that level, should they be appointed or elected?
A wonderful question. And I go back and forth on that. I think in Texas, we're elected. Our judges are elected here. Mm-hmm. And it's, on some levels, it's kind of important that the judge reflect the community. Just like, much of the South, I mean, we have a lot of history in Texas that we're not entirely proud of. And I think that our communities need to take ownership. And I think that that's kind of part of it. On the other hand, the federal system works pretty well, right? You know, you have an appointment by the president, and then the Senate confirms, and so you have so your judiciary is certainly qualified. Some states, what they'll do is you're on the bench for 10 years, and then they give you an up-down vote. I think that there's a lot of pluses and minuses to those. So everybody kind of tweaks it a little bit. Plus, one of the downsides here in Texas, because our judges are elected, is that it really injects party politics into it a little much more than people like. I mean, I've had judges tell me, Jeremy, everybody in this building can love me and think I'm the greatest, but if we fight an unpopular war in Iraq, I'm gone.
Right.
And so that's I mean. So that part of it doesn't make sense. So I'm with you. I don't know that there's a perfect answer. A lot of our judges are former prosecutors. A lot of our judges have done both. A lot of our judges did divorce work, and then they're ruling on criminal cases. Yeah. It's just not a perfect system.
No. We're chatting with Jerry Rosenthal. We're talking about the case that transpired or is transpiring in Georgia. Trump's got a lot of legal balls up in the air. There's no question about that. I think the one thing, short of acquittal on every single one of these charges, whether it's in Jack Smith's court or Fani Willis's court or Bragg's court in New York, the one thing he wants, short of acquittal, is to delay these things as much as possible past the election in November. How much of a fast track do you think this Georgia case is on right now? Because it's a state case. It's not a federal case. And I'm just wondering, do you think that the Trump team has any chance of applying the brakes so this thing doesn't get done before November?
Hard to know. There's a lot of jobs that you can have in this universe, Ken, and have the weekend off. Putting people in a cage is not one of them. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of work that goes into all of these. The New York State case, I mean, you got Michael Cohen, who's a witness, and that dude comes with 8 million things that you got to give to Trump's team. You may be familiar with what's called Brady material. That's exculpatory material.
Right.
So I mean, and there's no end in sight to the exculpatory material on that dude. So you gotta, if you're the prosecutor, you got to turn it all over. And if you're going to turn it over, then we all sort of have to agree that, well, they need a little more time to kind of look at it. On the Georgia case, hard to know. Just going to depend on the specifics to that guy's docket. You've also got co-defendants there. I don't know if we know whether or not they're going to be multiple trials, because you can try multiple people at the same time. The feds do that a lot. So we don't know at this point on the Georgia cases. We got this ruling and we'll see what's next. So
Yeah.
we were sitting there waiting, and the judge, may tell these folks, all right, guys, pick the trial date. Of course, Trump team's gonna pick the latest one they can. Hey, Judge, how about January? And who knows? I'm free. I'm free next April, Your Honor. So you just don't know. Yeah.
And everybody's getting paid by the hour, probably except the judge and maybe Willis. Everybody else is getting paid by the hour.
That's right. Well, the judge and Willis, they both got some really good dental plans.
That's right. Jeremy, thank you for your time. It's always great catching up with you. You just make it real. I really appreciate it, and carving out some time here on the weekend. Stay well. We need to hear your voice. Thank you.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
So the postscript on this is that obviously Donald Trump won the presidency back. He was able to delay all of the legal proceedings until after that. They actually appealed up Judge McAfee's opinion in this instance to the Georgia Court of Appeals, and the Georgia Court of Appeals, armed with the Trump victory, basically said that, well, we never really exclude a prosecutor for reasons like this, but here we sort of have to because, well, we just sort of have to. And I think this is where the case dies. So that is the ending of this saga. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed.